श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीम्। ॐ Page 2, 15th line from the top. उभाभ्यां पुण्यपापाभ्यां मानुष्यं लभते वशः इति चैकस्यैव शुभाशुभमिश्रकर्मभिः विजातीयशरीरलभं दर्शयति कथमन्यथा लोकप्रसिद्धं सुखदुःखादिवैचित्र्यम् उपपद्यते. We were looking at the Vyakhya by Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal to the Vivekachudamani's second verse, Jantunam Narajanma Durlabham. Now there, AchArya had said that by performing a mixture of punya and papa, one attains a human body. If one were to perform predominantly punya karmas, then one attains a very favorable body, a very favorable birth. And if one performs a predominance of papa karma, one attains an unfavorable birth. If one performs a mixture of punya and papa, one attains a human birth. This much we had seen in the last class. And the context of this was the Jagadguru talking about how the soul is independent from the body. This portion of the Vyakhya is quite similar in its subject matter to the contents of the Sambandha Bhashyam of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is the opening introduction to the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, wherein Acharya Shankara Bhagatpada establishes the Sambandha between the Karmakanda and the Jnanakanda, the ritualistic portion of the Veda and the knowledge-based portion of the Veda. And there he also talks about how the self is beyond the means of perception. And he establishes that there is a self that is independent of the body, and that the person who has eligibility to study the scriptures, both the Karmakanda and the Jnanakanda, is one who has accepted that there is a soul that is independent from the body. Coming to this Vyakhya, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal says that it is karma that is the basis for determining what is the next birth likely to be, what the next body is likely to be. And without the punya and papa that have been accrued by the performance of karma, one cannot account for the variety and the disparity that is observed in society. It cannot be an act of pure randomness that determines this disparity in our existence and the way that we carry ourselves, because we do see a cause and effect relationship between the kind of actions that we do and the results that accrue from it. It may be argued here that the scriptures describe God as the creator of this world, and therefore to say that human agency or human karma is what determines the next birth would therefore militate against what the Shastras say. That could be one argument that is presented against this theory. In response to that, Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal says, Yadi karma nirapekshaha Ishvara eva kamshchid praninaha sukhinaha kanshchid anyadrishanscha srujet vaishamya nairgrunye bhajeta. Here, he is invoking an adhikaranam, a chapter from the BrahmaSutra called the Vaishamya Nairgranya Adhikaranam. In the Vaishamya Nairgranyam Adhikaranam of the BrahmaSutra Bhashyam, a question is considered. If Ishvara were of his own accord give some people a pleasurable life and others a painful life, then he would be open to the charge of Vaishamyam and Nairgranyam. Vaishamyam means partiality, Nairgranyam means cruelty. That he would be partial to some jivas and cruel to other jivas. All the jivas who are blessed with a happy life would be blessed not because of any actions that they have taken, rather it is because Ishvara has dispensed some special favor to them. And all the people who are suffering in hell and have a very painful existence Ishvara is unfavorably disposed towards them and therefore has cursed them to such an existence. Now, such a, an action on the part of Ishvara is dependent, according to this view, not on the Jiva's karmas themselves, but because of Ishvara's favorable or unfavorable disposition towards a particular Jiva. That is not an acceptable statement because Ishvara, being the Lord of all creatures, cannot be favorably disposed towards one and unfavorably disposed to the other. He loves everyone equally. However, the results that he blesses a particular jiva with are a reflection not of his love for that particular jiva, but based on the karmas that have been performed by that jiva. If the jiva has performed good karmas, Ishvara will award him with a blissful life. If the jiva has performed bad karmas, Ishvara will award him with a painful life. Continuing. तदुक्तं वैषम्यनैर्गृण्ये न सापेक्षत्वात् तथा हि दर्शयति न कर्मा विभागादिति चेत् न अनादित्वात् उपपद्यते चाप्युपलभ्यते च इति सूत्रैः ईश्वरस्य कर्मसापेक्षत्वं संसारस्य अनादित्वं च. Here, Acharya is saying, in the Vaishamya Nairgranya Adhikaranam, which consists of 3 sutras, Vaishamya Nairgranye na sapekshatvat tatahi darshayati is one sutra. Na karma vibhagaditi chet na anaditvat is the second sutra. Upapadyate cha pyupalabhyate cha is the third sutra. These are the 3 sutras that comprise the Vaishamya Nairgranyam Adhikaranam of BrahmasUtram. Now, in the first sutra, Vaishamya Nairgranye na sapekshatvat tatahi darshayati, the question is first raised. Is Ishvara subject to the charge of partiality and cruelty? And the answer given is that no, if he had awarded results purely based on his own raga and dvesha, then he would be open to the charge of partiality and cruelty. But it is sapeksham, that is, it is dependent on the jiva's karma, and therefore, based on that, he is awarding the results to each jiva in consonance, in accordance with that jiva's karma, and therefore he is not subject to the charge of partiality towards some and cruelty towards the others. The second sutra here essentially asks the question, okay, that may be true of creation right now, that it is based on someone's karma that were committed in their previous births have determined their life in this current birth. Okay, that is fine. But what about the very first creation? At the very first instance of creation, there was no karma to begin with. Jivas would not have performed any karmas, and therefore, on what basis did Ishvara award the births in the first janma for the entire creation? Now, that is a pretty valid question, right? Because we are saying right now that in the current birth is based on the previous birth. But what about the very first birth? In the very first birth, it has to be accepted that the Ishvara was favorably disposed to some and unfavorably disposed to others. So the charge of Vaishamya Nairgranyam still persists. That could be one question. To which the answer is given no. You cannot say that there was no karma in the very first creation. It was all homogeneous. You cannot say that because creation is beginningless. There was no point in creation when there was a previous birth or a previous instance of creation did not exist. It is a beginningless sequence of transmigratory experiences that every jiva has gone through. Every jiva is anadi. The samsara that everyone is facing is anadi samsara. There is no beginning at all to this. It is a beginningless sequence of events that have been happening. At every instance, there was a previous instance. As the Upanishad says, dhata yatha purvam akalpayate. Ishvara creates every instance of creation on the basis of a previous instance of creation, of the karmas that were there in the previous instance. And therefore, the charge of Vaishamya Nairgranyam, even in the first instance of creation, does not apply because there is no such instance called the first instance of creation. This brings us to the third sutra of the Vaishamya Naikarnya Adhikaranam. Here, the Sutrakara is saying that creation is said to be beginningless because it is logically provable to be the case, but also the Shruti also says that. How so logically? If creation had a beginning at one point in time, then it would mean that before that first instance of creation, there was no other creation. There would be no karmas on the basis of which Ishvara could have given a particular jiva a particular kind of birth. There would be no basis for Ishvara to determine which jiva gets what. It would lead to a defect called akrita abhyagamam. Essentially, akrita abhyagamam means that somebody gets the result without having worked for it. So even in the first instance of creation, there would have been an Indra, there would have been a Brahma, there would have been like people who have exalted births, and there would also be people who have very, very lowly births also. That being the case, those individuals who have exalted births would have got a great result without having worked for it at all. And those who are extremely suffering would also have received it without any basis for it at all. Now, we cannot say that the birth was because any previous karma, because there was no previous karma to begin with. And the causal relationship between karma and a new sharira would be broken. Because what we are seeing right now is that there's a circular relationship between karma and sharira. Like the chicken and the egg, who came first? If you ask, did karma come first or did the body come first? We cannot say karma came first because the body is required to do karma. So, but we cannot say the body came first either because this body is the result of the karma that was done using the previous body. So, like the seed and the plant, there is a beginningless series of seeds and plants of karma and sharira, karma and sharira, karma and sharira. It's only if it is a beginningless sequence that you do not have this logical fallacy of akrita abhyagamam and the breakdown of the cause effect relationship between karma and sharira. Thus, logically, the Sutrakara, Bhagavan Vedavyasa, is saying that a beginningless creation makes sense. But the Shruti also says so. The Shruti says, Surya Chandramasau Dhata Yatha Purvama Kalpayate. The sun and the moon, etc., etc., Dhata, Ishvara, has created just like how it was in the previous creation, or on the basis of what was there in the previous creation. So it follows that Ishvara did not create anything for the first time. He always created on the basis of how it was the previous time. So the Shruti itself is saying that creation is beginningless. Continuing, धर्मभूतः संसार एव अनादिश्चेत् तद् आश्रयस्य संसारिणः अनादित्वं कैमुतिकन्यायसिद्धम्. Here Acharya is saying that if the samsara is beginningless, then it follows that the locus of samsara, who is the samsari, that is jivas, those loci would also be beginningless. So just to explain that, now when we say that a jiva is a samsari, what we are saying is that the jiva is undergoing samsara. He keeps going from one birth to the other birth. Now, if the cycle of births and deaths is beginningless, then it follows that the one who is traveling in those multiple births and deaths must also be beginningless. If the attribute that is samsara is beginningless, then what to talk of the locus of the attribute, the jiva? He too must be beginningless. That is why he says, Tat siddham atmanaha sharira vetiriktatvam. Therefore, it follows that the self is different, distinct from the body. And then he goes on to define what is this astika. At the beginning of this Vyakhya, he had said astika syaiva shastre adhikarat. Now, having explained that the self is distinct from the body, he goes on to say that the astika that was referred to at the beginning of the Vyakhya is the individual who holds that there is a self which is distinct from the body. He says, Sharira Atirekta Atmastitva Vadieva Astikaha iti. The one who argues, who holds the position that there exists a self which is different from the body, he alone is who we in Vedanta refer to as an Astika. Shastra Vyavahara Nidanam Astikyamiti Jantunam Narajarma Durlabham iti anena Suchitam. Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal is saying that the precondition for the study of scriptures and to act in accordance with what the scriptures enjoin, the precondition of that is the belief in the existence of a soul independent from the body. This much has been indicated, suchitam, he uses the word suchitam, meaning indicated, has been indicated by Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada by the words Jantunam Narajanma Durlabham, that amongst the different species of living beings, the birth as a human being is extremely rare. This goes to show the true depth of the words of Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada, which have been revealed by Jagadguru Srimad Chandrashekhara Bharati Mahaswamigal, where the profundity of the Vivekachudamani, which would have otherwise passed us by, is laid threadbare. We are truly blessed to have received and to have had the opportunity to study the Vyakhya by such a Jivan Mukta. And by these very words itself, one can realize the extent of what an exalted being he was. Anyway, continuing, he takes the next words in the Viveka Chudamani, Tataf Pumstvam. He says, Tataf Pumstvam Striya Vededhikara Bhavat. In the Viveka Chudamani, the next word is Tataf Pumstvam. Rarer than a human birth is the birth as a male. And the reason given is that women do not have the scriptural sanction for the study of the scriptures. So what? So what if they don't have the sanction to study the scriptures? Acharya says, Upanishadeka samadhigamya atma naiva gyatum shakyate iti abhiprayah. He says that the atma is only revealed by the words of the Upanishad. And the Upanishad, the scriptures are the sole means for the knowledge of the self. And because women do not have the scriptural sanction to study the scriptures as their vocation, they do not have the direct means for the study of scriptures and therefore the direct access to the self, the knowledge of the self. And therefore he says that rarer than the birth as a human being, the birth as a male confers greater advantages to males. And that is what is being revealed here. Now, this does not mean in itself that women do not have the scriptural sanction to know the self. Knowing the self and having the scriptural sanction to study are completely two different things. First of all, knowing the self itself is not the object of any scriptural injunction. In discussing Atma Ityevopasita, which is a very important sutra vakya that occurs in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Acharya Shankara Bhagavatpada says that to know the self cannot be the subject matter of any injunction. The Upanishad cannot say you have to know the self. It cannot say that. So it's not a matter of scriptural injunction. The question then becomes is the Upanishad denying women the knowledge of the self? Certainly not. The Upanishad is certainly not doing that. However, what Adi Shankara Bhagavatpada is saying here is because women do not have the vocation of studying the scriptures, they do not have the direct means for the knowledge of the self. However, in the scriptures themselves, there are tales of Brahmavadinis like Gargi, etc. And therefore, it is not the case that women are denied the knowledge of the self, but merely the direct means to it is circumstantially not available to them because they do not have the scriptural sanction to learn both the karma kanda and the jnana kanda. However, by the study of Puranas, by the study of other texts that have the Upanishads as their basis, women still have the means to know the self. The most direct, straightforward path is available to those who have the scriptural sanctioned authority to study the Upanishads because the Upanishads directly reveal the self. And therefore, being born as a male human being confers a significant set of advantages which are directly helpful in the spiritual growth and in liberation. With that, we will stop this class here. We will continue with this in the next session. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.